Hello, my name's Luke, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how we manage our money in our early 20s. So in this video, I'm going to break down our specific income and expenses and savings at the end of the day that we had set for our early 20s and our very first real budget. So let's start with the juicy stuff. And that is our income in 2017. Now, 2017 was... quick math, that is 5 years ago. And that means that this was pretty much when Emily and I had just been married 1 year and we were both in our graduate positions at work. So these are our graduate salaries and we were bringing not a lot of money in, but combined it's not too bad. It's still less than $100,000. So I'm gonna break down the numbers for you and we'll tally them up here in the video. So you can keep track of the income and then what we spent the money on afterwards. So in 2017, I was earning $45,358 after tax. So that was my take-home salary after taxes after at least a year of working at the audit firm. So really not a lot of money. So if you're looking to jump into a big tier or mid-tier firm in accounting, finance, and business, then don't be surprised if you end up with a salary that's not on the high end. Investment banking appears to be where all the money's at, but working in audit and tax, after about a year, I was only earning $45,358. So Emily was actually doing a little bit better than me, and she had only just started her graduate position, and she was earning $50,153 after tax. So we have a couple of other categories here. We budget $1,000 for me doing a few gigs, playing music, and $1,000 coming from our share portfolio as dividends. So all up, when you add Emily's salary, my salary, and a little bit of extra income coming from music and shares, we had a total income of $97,511 in our early 20s to go towards our income. Now, when you combine those incomes, to me, that's quite a lot of money. $97,000 is a lot of money if you're careful and considerate with what you spend it on. So I'm gonna go through the categories of our expenditure in 2017 and break down exactly what we budgeted to spend our money on in that year. So the first big thing was getting a roof over our heads, and we didn't have enough money to buy a home at that point in time. So we were renting in Brisbane, about 5 or 6 kilometers out from the CBD in a little apartment. It was a 2-story brick house and we had some great neighbors there. So shout out to Pelly and Nicole. They run a food truck and a shop front now called That Greek Truck, and they sell amazing Greek food here in Brisbane. So I'm shouting them out to show them a bit of love. So go and check them out if you're in Brisbane and you want to try some amazing Greek food. So we were living in that little 2-story brick apartment block. We tried to save as much money on rent. Now, we negotiated with the landlord to actually get air conditioning installed. And so originally we were gonna pay $320 per week for the apartment on the top floor of the 2-story block. But we decided to negotiate and try and get air conditioning because Brisbane is sweltering here in summer. So for an extra $20, we bumped that up to $340 a week in rent. The apartment block was an old style, so it had probably been built 40 or 50 years ago. But the landlord had renovated it really nicely and had a nice kitchen, bathroom, and living areas, and we absolutely loved living there. So $340 a week on rent. Now, internet was $900 a year, so that was roughly $75 a month. And then our basic utilities, so electricity, heating, and water, came to $3,600 for the entire year. So that's about $300 per month. So that covered a roof over our head, internet, which was very important when you're working and wanting to watch YouTube and relax and play video games at home. And then we had all of our utilities covered for $3,600. So far we spent $22,180 of our $97,500 of income. Now here's where the fun stuff gets broken down. So we're gonna go through a bunch of miscellaneous expenses and I'm just gonna knock these out for you because I don't wanna bore you with background on all of these categories. So mobile phones, $300. Now we had prepaid plans, super cheap, easy and affordable, and we owned our personal phones outright. So that was $300 for both Emily and I on really cheap plans. Okay, so we had groceries. We spent $4,320 on groceries and $1,920 on fast food. So 30% of our food budget was going to fast food. And then the other 2/3 of our money was being spent on groceries, where we shop at Woolies and Coles. I'm not gonna tell you which one because I might divide the viewership here. but we did shop at both Woolies and Coles in different periods of time. The next was our car. So as an auditor, I needed a car to get around and go and visit clients. So there were a few expenses that we had to manage on the car. That was fuel, maintenance, insurance, and rego. Now, all up, the four of those categories came to $2,416. The biggest of those being fuel, which we budgeted $1,200 for. $500 for maintenance, $216 for insurance, and $500 for rego. Moving on to clothing and shoes. Now, we only budgeted $1,000 for clothing and shoes, and that is largely for the shoe department. Emily and I have a really fun time going op shopping. There's a couple of really cool op shops that Emily and I really like to visit, and we pick up clothes like this. This jacket was actually an op shop find, which I usually wouldn't tell people because they would have no clue. We found really great clothing from op shops, stuff that people just don't want to keep anymore and they want to donate. And we think it's a great thing to, upcycle clothes and also, pay that money to the charities that are running the op shops. They do such a great job. So if you can get thrift shopping, go out there and do it. So $1,000 budget was all we needed, and that was mainly to cover football boots and work shoes and any other clothes that we were going to buy during the year. Now, we have a budget here for Spotify, and we love listening to music, and we don't want to listen to ads while we're going through work or while we're out on a run. So we thought it was totally worth paying for Spotify, and we've paid for it for the last 5 years. So we budgeted $144 back then. We just had one Spotify account. Now, the next category was travel to and from work. We had slightly different budgets for this because Em would go into the city 5 days per week, and I would go into the city maybe 2 or 3 days, and the rest I would be out driving the car to client sites. So I had $518 budgeted for my travel into the city, and Emily had $1,200 going to and from work. So all up on travel to and from work, that is $1,718. So the next category was our church tithe, and we budgeted $5,200. So that was what we thought we could afford to give at the time to the church. That was $100 a week, and we wanted to consistently give and, be generous with our funds. So we tried to give every week $100 and be consistent. So we set up a direct debit for that and transferred the money each week to the church. The next thing was additional expenses such as traveling, holidays, and anything miscellaneous. And we had a budget here of $3,000. So at that time, we were actually saving for a Melbourne trip, which we went down with some of our best friends. And we had a fantastic time going to Melbourne with them. So we had to save money for that trip. So that was put into our annual budget to make sure that we had a buffer and that we had enough money to go away on the trip. So all up, including a roof over our head, some phone bills, some music, some food, clothing, travel to and from work, some giving, and any additional expenses that we had, the total amount that we had for expenses in our 2017 budget was $42,858. So let's break down the numbers comparing our income, expenses, and savings percentage at that point in time. Now, to keep in mind, Emily and I were trying to be as strict as possible with our budget. We were trying to save as much money as we could because we know it's the hardest to save that first $100,000 or that first $50,000 to get enough money together for a deposit. So we were working really hard in our first few years of work in our early 20s to try and get this money together. So the annual income was $97,511. The annual expenses per the budget were $42,859. And the projected savings for that 12-month period were $54,652. Now, I don't think we quite stuck to this budget, and we probably spent a little bit more money, but based on the budgeted numbers, that was a 56% savings rate of our total income. And it's obviously a lot easier to do that as a couple than it is to do that as a single, because you can combine some expenses and you can get some efficiencies by living together and having a place that's shared and sharing all things like your internet, your electricity, your water, and your Spotify as well. If you're in your early 20s or you're looking to move out of home very soon, I hope this budget gave you some insight into what we spent and what we budgeted in our first few years of moving out of home and getting our first jobs in our early 20s. If you have any budget tips or ideas or discussion points that you want to ask in the comments down below, please leave a comment, or if you have any video ideas for me, also drop a comment down below. Drop a like on this video. It really helps the channel, send more of these videos out to other people. Subscribe as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Hello, welcome back to the, well, not welcome back, you're probably new, lol.